Only when you talk. Good morning. Welcome to the 2016 Women's Final Four. We are running a few minutes behind schedule. We're waiting for Connecticut to arrive, and at which point they will be on the dais at 10:20-ish. And we'll have a full 30 minutes with them here. Their locker room will be open for a full 30 minutes while they're on the dais. A few reminders for the week. We will have microphone holders, so please raise your hand, state your name and affiliation, and wait for the mic before you start your questions. We will be taking questions for the student athletes first, then we'll dismiss them back to open locker room area, and then we'll continue on with questions for the head coach for the remainder of the dais time. Please also this weekend make sure to assign your questions to a specific student athlete. Hey, Carly. Here, yeah, I can't see anything in front of those two guys. Thanks. Connecticut is in the building and will be making their way down momentarily. Okay, great. Connecticut is on their way to the press conference. Their locker room is open. It will be open for 30 minutes.
I know. I usually.
Joining us on the dais now from UConn, head coach Gino Ariema, student athletes Brianna Stewart, Morgan Tuck, and Mariah Jefferson. Yeah. Hard to get into.
Yeah, no.
We'll open with a statement from Coach Oriema, and then we'll take questions for the student athletes. Coach?
Thanks, Emery. You know, the worst part about the whole trip is waiting for Sunday. You know, you get here and it's one thing after another, and they make time for everything except getting ready for the game. That almost becomes an afterthought. So, you know, we're going to try to focus on tomorrow night, and I like where our team is mentally, and I think we're in a really good place. And I know we're just anxious, and I think tomorrow morning it'll kind of really settle in, and we'll get into our game day routine, and I guess that's the best word I can use to describe is we're anxious.
Thank you, Coach. We'll take questions for the student athletes. Please raise your name. Please raise your hand. Wait for the microphone.
John Altavilla from the Hartford Current. Morgan, as Coach was alluding to, you guys know the routine so well here. You know, from the time you get off the bus, when you arrive to a Final Four city, to the time you play the game. The other three teams don't. It's all new to them. Do you think that translates at all in the game and the playing of the game?
You know, I think, well, this time I think it's a little different where, you know, our schedule is a little changed because we usually have the second game. But, you know, I think part of it, like Coach talks about, is just, you know, not focusing on this part of it. This is not why we came here. We didn't come to do media or, you know, a dinner or things like that. And I think all three teams, no matter how many times they've been here, know that we're here to play basketball. So, you know, I think it can help where we don't get caught up in it. But, you know, at the end of the day, I think all teams know we're just coming for the games and not all the extra stuff.
Question down here.
Howard Megdal from Excel Sports. Question for all three of you. You've talked about, you know, making sure that your routine stays the same, you know, games in January, throughout your season to make sure you're preparing the same way. But obviously, here's an opportunity to sort of take it in for the last time, as you know. And I'm just wondering whether you guys have done anything different in terms of being able to take that extra moment and how you sort of balance that with making sure your routine doesn't change.
Can you take that first, Brianna?
Sure. You know, well, I think what Coach is talking about, it's hard to kind of take time. You know, we don't have much free time in the Final Four because we're always doing something with the media or going to a dinner or something like that. But, you know, in the back of our minds, we know that either way, this is our last Final Four. And we want to enjoy that. We want to enjoy that with our teammates, our coaches, families that came. But when tomorrow happens, we're focused solely on the game. We're going through our same game day routine because that's how we mentally lock in.
Did you want to answer that, Mariah?
Pretty much the same things that Stewie was saying. You know it is tough knowing that it's your last time, and you try to, you know, cherish the moments as much as you can. But at the same time, it's game day, game time, and when that comes around, we're going to be ready to play the game.
A question right here.
Hi, Brianna. Lindsey Kramer from the Syracuse Post-Standard. Two-part question. One, I was just curious, now that you're concluding your UConn career, looking back to your recruiting days, how close did you actually come to going to Syracuse? Where did they rank? And part two, now that Syracuse is in the Final Four and part of this excitement as your hometown team, what's your reaction to their very quick ascension and them being here?
Well, obviously, growing up in Syracuse, I definitely thought about going there. Who wouldn't? Who wouldn't think about going to the hometown school, that kind of stuff? But when push came to shove, UConn was the best place for me. And, you know, seeing them being here in the Final Four, I'm, you know, over the top happy for Coach Q, Brittany Sykes, Bree Butler, people that, you know, I grew up playing with, played McDonald's with, that kind of stuff. And it's nice to see their program finally, you know, take that next step.
Question down here.
Rich Elliott for the Day. For all of you, you've been working at this for so long now, and you're finally here at the Final Four with 2 wins away from a championship. What does it feel like to be so close to your goal?
I think it feels really good. This was definitely our goal coming in, and for us to be here, that's a big part of it. And so I think we're just ready to start the tournament and start playing tomorrow and just trying to get through all the things we have to do today and just trying to enjoy it.
Thanks, Morgan. Question, Michelle?
Michelle Smith, ESPNW. Mariah, what of the lasts have you been most sentimental about so far? When you're getting to these last things? And I want to ask both of you, what have you guys been most sentimental about?
Probably the last game, walking off the court with these two. That was a great moment for us, to get out of the Elite Eight, to win the game that we did. It was really tough. It was hard fought, and then to walk off the court with these guys, it was pretty fun.
I would agree. Coming into Connecticut with these two, I couldn't have asked for a better class to be with, and they've made me such a better player, and I've enjoyed my time with them. So I think just knowing that, we won't really be on the same court playing with each other after this weekend.
Thanks, Morgan. We'll take another question down here.
Pat Eaton-Rob from the Associated Press. Brianna, 2 great shot blockers in this upcoming game. Can you talk about how are you able to learn shot blocking? Is it instinctual? And what do you do when you're going up against another great shot blocker to make sure they don't get that?
Well, I think shot blocking has a lot to do with your size and your length, first of all. And then, it turns into instincts. You have to be able to figure out the timing and that kind of stuff, and to not use your body to create the contact with the other player. But when you're playing against another great shot blocker, you have to kind of, realize the things that I would do and try to use more shot fakes, that kind of stuff, and get them in foul trouble.
We have time for 2 more for the student athletes.
Jim Fuller, New Haven, Richard. Just follow up on what impresses you about Ruth's shot blocking, and are there similarities in the way you see her going after shots and the way you play that as well?
I think the thing that impresses me most is, she's obviously tall and has length and that kind of stuff, but the way she uses it, she uses her body really well, and doesn't initiate contact to get a foul and that kind of stuff. And even when the ball's coming out on the perimeter, she's still doing her best to contest that.
I'll take our last question for the student athletes right down here.
Hey, Lex, how you doing? It's Mark from Mariah. I'm calling from KJOZ. I'm out of Houston. And the question I have for you is that as players, it's easy. I've been here a lot. Do you think in any kind of way you kind of take this for granted? Because sometimes you get complacent. I know Coach probably remind you all the time. But do you think that being here so many times and doing it so well, do you think y'all get complacent or just take it for granted?
Not at all. Each time we come here, there's a different team. It's different players, and we have to work extremely hard throughout the year. It might look easy on TV, but it's not at all. We go through a lot of struggles, a lot of difficulties throughout the year, and so every time we get here, it's amazing, and we don't take it for granted at all.
Thanks, Mariah. We're going to send the ladies back to the locker room. They will be available in the locker room for the remaining time. And we'll start with questions for Coach Auriemma. We'll start right here.
John Altavilla, Hartford Current. Gino, when you went to the Final Four in '91, I would imagine there were, in some ways, your team resembled Oregon State's in terms of mentality and attitude and being an upstart. Do you see that in this game in Oregon State, and do you miss those days at all?
Yeah, excuse me. I think there's a certain number of similarities, of course. They've been pretty good for the last couple of years, and that was the case with us. We have been pretty good, and we finally broke through, and totally unexpected. We were in a regional where we certainly were not. They were higher than we are. They were a 2 seed. We were, I think, a 4 or something like that. I don't remember, but I don't even know if there were 64 teams back then. I don't think there were in 1991 in our tournament. So it was unexpected for us to be here, and I think in some ways it was unexpected for a team from where we were to be in the Final Four. And there hasn't been a team from that part of the country in the Final Four. I don't know if ever. I don't know if Washington ever made it in the past. This might be Washington's first. I'm not sure. So I mean, there's some similarities, and their team is, senior dominated. Ours was junior and senior dominated. They shoot the ball well. We shot the ball well, really well back then. Our players weren't well known throughout the country, and most of their players, they've not been on the national stage. Do I miss those days? Sometimes. I mean, sometimes I think back to how much fun it was to be in that situation. I don't miss coming to the Final Four in 1991 and having Tennessee, Stanford, and Virginia, and people looking at us going, "What are you doing here?" I don't miss those days. And I don't miss the days when I didn't have Stewie, Mariah, and Tuck. Not at all.
Next question from Rich.
Gino, after all this team has endured over the last few months, with the end so close, are the players conducting themselves any different? Do you see greater urgency or anything like that?
The difference starts to show when the NCAA tournament begins. I think once the NCAA tournament starts, there's a little bit of a difference, and you can tell, you can see it in their demeanor, you can see their practice. Things change a little bit, but in terms of what they do on a daily basis and how they go about things, not much. It's pretty much the same routine. There's really, you can't change much. You can't do something one way for 6 months and then try to do it something completely different the last 2 weekends. So just subtle things, but not anything real big.
Next question here.
Hi, Gino. Kareth Burke, SNY. Mariah and Brianna made the USBWA All-American list. Morgan Tuck did not. When you describe how essential she is all season to UConn's success, but she's next to the reigning Player of the Year, next to the reigning Nancy Lieberman Award winner, do you feel like Morgan gets lost?
No, I don't think she gets lost. I think in life, you end up in places where you're surrounded by either people who do great things and you're a part of it, or you're surrounded with people who bring you down. Morgan's been fortunate to be around Mariah and Stewie because they've raised her level. Maybe playing someplace without those two, she wouldn't be as good a player as she is. And the reason she doesn't get lost is these other two, Mariah and Stewie, know that without Morgan, they wouldn't be here. They would be home. And Stewie might not be the National Player of the Year if it wasn't for Mariah or for Morgan Tuck. So it's just a matter of what the outside people, the outside world chooses to believe in and to vote on and give awards to, which is fine. It's fine. I mean, media votes and media, you have to spread things around. I understand that. I mean, that's obvious. But I think if you polled the 365 coaches around the country and told them that they could pick any 5 players in America to be on their team for one game, I wonder where Tuck would come in.
Next question, Michelle.
Gino, when do you get sentimental when you've got a senior group? When do you start to feel sentimental about a group that's almost done with what they've accomplished here? And then second question is the job that Scott Ruick has done, 2 scholarship kids and open tryouts when he got to Oregon State.
When do I get sentimental about my seniors? Next October 15th, when practice starts. And I'll look around and I'll finally go, man, those guys were really good. It builds throughout the season. It builds till you get to this point, and you start to understand that it's obviously going to end this weekend. Sunday or Tuesday, it's going to end. And you've been through it so many times. And actually, it is different with every group. Some groups hit you harder than others. So I think Sunday night or Tuesday night, I'm sure there'll be feelings that I've never thought about that will come, that some I anticipate, some I won't anticipate. And it'll give us the time to look back a little bit. As far as Scott's concerned, just goes to show you, so I think it's another great example of how many great schools in this country just have the wrong leaders, and that if they hired the right people, they would be where Oregon State is today. And your point about tryouts, I mean, how can a school in the Pac-12 have to have tryouts? And it just goes to show you how bad the program was when he took over. And, he went out and he got kids that back then, 4 years ago, 5 years ago, he was recruiting. I don't think anybody else in the Pac-10 was scared and going, oh my God, we're in deep trouble. So he went out and got kids that he thought would fit into his style of play and fit into his community up there. And it's a great lesson to every other school in the country and to every other coach in the country.
Next question back here.
Mario Sacco, WSYR with Syracuse. Coach, what has Brianna Stewart meant to your program, and what was that recruiting process like?
Well, I mean, obviously, she means it's a mutual thing, Like I think sometimes that gets lost in the in all the dialogue. If Stewie had not come to UConn, we might still be here. And after Stewie leaves, we might be back. The thing that's important is that during the last 4 years, it's been mutual. She's had an incredible effect on college basketball in general and the University of Connecticut in particular. And the game has had an effect on her, and the University of Connecticut has had an effect on her. And that's the way it's supposed to be when you go to college. It's supposed to be a mutual admiration society. It's not supposed to be one way. And I think it's been perfect. The recruiting process wasn't that hard, really. Some recruiting processes are a joke. I mean, it's like demeaning. And I don't get into it, but my heart goes out to those coaches that have to recruit that way with those kinds of kids, where you have to like embarrass yourself to get a kid. It's the stories I hear make me want to, about what some of these kids put coaches through during the recruiting process. Stewie was easy. It was easy. I mean, no frills, no drama, no, coach, I just want to play basketball. I just want to win a national championship. I want to be the best player in the country, period. I said, good. So sign on the dotted line and let's do it. It wasn't that hard. It wasn't hard, but I remember when she came to our Duke game at school, at home, we were playing Duke, and she had said that that it had come down to us and Duke, and she had come to the Duke game, and I remember asking her, like, so, like, whoever wins tonight, that's where you're going to go to school? And really shy kid, I mean, she still is to a certain extent. So she sat, she was sitting behind our bench in the recruiting seats, and we got a big lead on them in the first half, and I remember turning around and saying to her, "You probably should go there. They could use you right now." And she just laughed, and smiled, and the game was over, and she's waiting for me outside the locker room, and one of the coaches said, "Coach Stewie wants to talk to you," and she came over and said, "I want to come to Connecticut." I can remember it like it was yesterday. It was cool.
Next question down here from Jim.
Jim Fuller, New Haven Register. You have two of the top 15 shot blockers in the history of the sport going against each other tomorrow with Ruth and Brianna. How are they different, and how they impact the team as far as defensively, similarly or differently?
Well, anytime a shot doesn't get to the rim, that's a good play for the defense. And I've been fortunate to coach some pretty good shot blockers, from Kara and Rebecca and Tina and now Stewie, obviously. When you know that you can make mistakes and they're not going to cost you, it's a real confidence builder defensively, that you can really go out and attack people, because if you make a mistake, there's somebody there, back there to clean it up for you. As Stewie said, the secret is to make sure you don't get hurt by it by getting yourself in foul trouble. And both of these guys are really good at not fouling. They're both really good at not fouling. Now, the interesting thing tomorrow would be how they attack Stewie and how we attack Ruth. I'm sure we'll both have different ideas of how to do it, but it'll be interesting to see that tomorrow.
Question in the back.
Lindsay Schnell, Sports Illustrated. Gino, we've spent a lot of time talking about the three girls who were up there, and rightfully so, but you've got a couple walk-ons in your program. And I'm curious what they've brought, and then also you brought them in when you guys were hurting for depth a couple years ago when Morgan got hurt, I believe. Was it weird to you that UConn, this powerhouse, had to have walk-ons to come in and help practice?
I don't know where you heard that, but that's not why we did it. We never take kids for depth. If I could just have 5 kids on my team the entire year, I would have 5. What we do at Connecticut is when we start preseason stuff in September, some kids just wander over to the gym, and they'll say to one of our players or they'll say to one of our coaches, "I want to try out for the team." So we tell them, "Well, here's what we do every day." So, and we leave it at that. And then those kids, T especially, Polly came a little bit later, just showed up every day. Every day went to the weight room, every day went on the track, every day did all the conditioning stuff that all the other players did. And then by the time October 15th rolls around, the kids will either tell you yes or no. And that's exactly how it happened with T. I mean, we got so many practice players up at school, we don't, so what do they bring from a basketball standpoint? Nothing that you could say, wow. But what they bring when we're at practice or when during the game or whatever is they bring a sense of perspective to everything. That initially they did it for nothing other than they loved to be a part of the team. And then we gave them a scholarship. But it brings perspective to the group, because it allows me to tell one of my players that's on scholarship that's not playing hard or not playing well, that maybe I'm giving the scholarship to the wrong person. That, it's a great example. T gets up at 4 o'clock every morning. She's got stuff to do. Polly has to miss some road trips because she's trying to get into medical school. So I have no time for any of our players that don't go to class. So it's a great example that they set.
We have time for 2 more questions. We'll go here and then our junior journalism.
Gino, Howard Mandel from Excel Sports. Clearly this group of seniors has meant a lot to you, and you haven't shied away from expressing that sort of, as you've gone forward in this tournament. I'm wondering whether, when you get near the end with a group, whether you have a specific set of ways that you market, or a specific set of ways that you think about it, being able to sort of take that perspective back, number one. But number two, whether you've felt freer to express how much you admire, how much you care about this group of seniors, even a little bit earlier on, maybe because of the way they prepare and the track record that they brought to this tournament.
You hate to say that it's routine, but this is a routine that college coaches go through. I don't know what other coaches' routine is, but my routine is when I'm recruiting somebody and I really, really, really like them, like I really like them, and I can't wait to get them come October, their freshman year. From October, their freshman year, to their senior year, I got no time for them. Because all I see is, oh my God, I got so much work to do to help these guys get better. They're nowhere near as good as I thought they were. They just don't understand this, they don't understand that. I can't believe, and you guys are all Americans in high school, what the, and it's just every year, every year, every year. Because you feel like this sense of responsibility, right? Then when they get to be seniors, you don't have to say a word. They got it. And that's when you start to really have a relationship with them that's really, really meaningful. Because now they know what you're talking about. Because for 3 years, 2.5 or so, they're like, huh? And you have to say the same thing every day. And you have to explain the same thing every day. And they go through peaks and valleys and emotions every day. So it's a rocky road. It's like raising teenagers. It's a rocky road. But then once they get it, man, it's like the greatest thing ever. When you've got 3 seniors or 1 senior or one year, I had 4 seniors that are unbelievable kids and unbelievable players. It's like stealing money when you're coaching. I'm not going to tell them. My AD's not here. It's like stealing money. When you don't have seniors like that, they can't pay you enough money to do this job.
We'll take our final question from the back from the Junior Journalism Workshop.
As a coach, how do you feel about returning to the Final Four again?
Is this your first time here?
Yes, sir.
How do you like it?
It's fun.
Yeah? What's fun about it?
Everything so far.
Everything?
Yes, sir.
What have you done?
We've watched you speak about the players.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, sir.
Yeah?
Yes, sir.
Have I said anything interesting so far? You're taking a long time to answer. That's not a good sign. If you want me to answer your question, you better say yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay. The trick in coming here is to make it feel like it's the first time all the time. And sometimes that's, that's hard to do because everybody just expects you to treat it like it's the same old thing. And I think you have to work hard at it. You have to work hard at making sure that it's like the first time. And the emotions have to be the same. The excitement has to be the same. Even though I understand it's hard to do that. My emotions are a little bit different today than they were in 1995 when we went to Minneapolis, when I thought, I really think we're going to win the national championship. And that was the first time I ever thought like that we're going to win it. Obviously, that's different. But for the most part, you're just like Katie Lou Samuelson and Nafisa Collier. This is their first Final Four. So this is not old hat and routine and all that. They're loving every minute of it, as they should. And we're trying to get our whole team to remember that.
Thank you, Coach.
Thank you.
Connecticut is in their open practice starting shortly. Our next press conference will be at 11:30 with Oregon State. we have so many other reporters in there trying to ask me questions. Yeah. Yeah, and I think that kind of went that way a little bit for a few of those today, yeah. But yeah, I'll definitely keep an eye on that. Okay, sure.
You just bring up here and then dump the water in?
Yeah. Yeah, those were just ones that I had poured.
Okay, I wasn't sure if it was
No. I don't want to lose these, so I'm going to put you in charge. You seem to have a system.
dump the ones that are there.
Yeah.
Is there like nothing? We found some chairs we set up back there.
Well, yeah, we don't need them today. But which ones are there?
So anyway, I'm Craig. I'm working
No problem. They are done, well, it's called ASAP quotes, so they really are supposed to be out right after the press conference. So we're expecting them within the next. Oh, good, good. It should. Yeah, there'll be a hard copy in the media information area, yeah. But we expect it within like 30 minutes, so, yeah. That's what they say. Are they on their way? Yeah, I think Natalie was shadowing Joni, to see how she did things with her team. No? Okay. Oregon State is making their way to the dais now. Their locker room will be open from 11:30 to noon. We'll start with an opening statement from the head coach, and then we'll take questions for the student athletes. We'll dismiss the student athletes back to the locker rooms, and then we'll continue with more questions for coach. Please make sure to wait for the microphone and state your name and affiliation and address your questions to a specific student athlete, please. Hi, ladies. Hello. Good to see you again. Cheers. Joining us now on the dais from Oregon State, head coach Scott Ruick, student athletes Ruth Hamblin, Sydney Weiss, and Jamie Weisner. we'll start with an opening statement from Coach, and then we'll take questions for the student athletes.
All right. Everything's just been great so far. Really appreciative of the NCAA and Indy for putting on just a first-class event. But everything's been smooth. A lot of travel last couple weeks, and it's been easy, and we appreciate that. Last night's event was first class, and so enjoying everything so far. This group next to me is unreal, and you look at what they came in to accomplish at the beginning of their careers, and I know Sid's just a little junior, but this senior class, when they came in, dreaming big, and here they are, getting to play in the last weekend that you possibly can, which everybody in this sport wants to do. And I'm just so proud of them and happy for them. Obviously, you get to this level, the challenges grow and they get bigger and bigger. And this is a group that has taken them on one at a time, and that's what this team needs to continue to do. And so we're excited about the challenges ahead, and this is a team that has prepared themselves the right way in every way. And I'm excited to watch them go to work this weekend.
Thanks, Coach. We'll start with questions right here for student athletes.
Jamie, Michelle Smith, ESPNW. There's a lot of stuff around this event in the Final Four that doesn't have a lot to do with basketball, dinners and obviously media and things like that. How do you, especially with the first time through, sort of keep the focus on basketball and obviously remember why you guys are here?
Yeah, it's just enjoying every moment of it, but still remembering why we're here. We're here to play basketball, and so obviously we have all this stuff this morning and then practice later this afternoon, and so just trying to salvage your energy where you can, and but still enjoy every moment.
Question right here.
Yes, David Woods from the Indianapolis Star. I wonder if each of the players could take turns and go through and explain what prompted them to go to Oregon State at a time when, I guess, from what I read, Oregon State barely had a women's basketball team.
Yeah, I'll start. I saw Coach Rick's vision and knew he was going to do something special here and knew I wanted to be a part of it. He brings in people that you can enjoy going to work with every single day and take out the wins and losses. With all that said and done, you're going to have a great experience and with people you love, and it's been nothing short of that. Plus, we've got some wins with that, and so it's been a great experience.
I knew that this was going to be a place where I could grow as an individual, grow in my faith, grow as a basketball player. And like Jamie said, it helps a little bit when you win some games along the way. But I knew regardless of that, the experience was going to be top-notch. We're surrounded by people who love us and care about us. And the vision that Coach Ruick set for us, I wanted to be a part of that, and I wanted to help build something at Oregon State. I wanted to help put Oregon State on the map for women's basketball.
Yeah, same with the vision that they all spoke of, but I knew also that he was going to help create me into the basketball player that I want to become. Just with his vision, it's not only on the team level, but it's on the individual level, and then just the family environment that he created. I wanted to be a part of that.
Next question in the back.
Lindsay Schnell, Sports Illustrated. For Jamie and Ruth, after the Baylor win, Devin posted on Twitter, 4 years ago we said we were going to get to the Final Four, and now we did it. Is that a talk that your class had coming in, and did you share that with Scott, that those were your plans? Because we can all agree that 4 years ago it seemed really far away, I think.
Yeah, I think we all were in the dorms together, and we'd have a lot of talks about it, and coming in, we just dreamed big. We didn't care where we were at or what the past was. We were going to work and each year progress and get better. And yeah, we had those visions of Final Four and making confetti angels on the floor. And so I think Coach Ruick, he knew that this group, we dreamt big. And I don't know if we necessarily had that Final Four talk with him, but he knew that we dreamt big.
Yeah, pretty much what you said. We were just all a bunch of kind of small town kids who were big dreamers, and we worked hard, and it's been cool to see how that's come this far. But yeah, we definitely had the vision.
Question here from Doug.
Doug Feinberg, the AP. For any of you three,
obviously so much has been talked about UConn this year and their quest for 4 straight titles and such. You guys haven't played them. I'm just curious, what of that has made its way out west? I mean, it's probably watching them on film a little bit, but I don't know if you knew about them beforehand, seen them play, or whatever it may be, your knowledge of UConn.
Oh, we knew about them. It's hard to miss them. They're on ESPN all the time, and obviously what they're doing is legendary. And for me, I would say it's even an honor to play against them. And in 20 years, I can tell my kids that I played against that UConn team. But yeah, it's an incredible honor, and we're gonna go into it very prepared and fearless.
Question down here in the corner.
Pat Eaton-Rob from the AP. Ruth and Jamie, could you both address this Team Canada thing here? You've got 4 players in the Final Four from Canada. How well do you know Kia Nurse? Have you guys been texting back and forth? And how proud back home are they of what the Canadians are doing down here?
Definitely, it's pretty cool for Canada basketball to have actually 5. Can't forget Colby Orem in there too. But it's really cool just the representation from the North that we have at this elite event. And haven't really messaged Kia too much. I think we're all focused kind of on our own teams, but we'll definitely talk about it after it's all said and done. But I know that Canada basketball is very proud of the players, and it's great to have the representation here.
Yeah, it's a pretty cool thing. We know Kia pretty well, having spent the last few summers with her, and so it's just neat to see the progression there, and I think they're very proud.
Question down here on the right.
Marvin Chambers, Houston Sun and Women's Hoop World. Sydney, obviously you've seen UConn on film. What type of pace did you guys think you need to run to be successful against UConn?
They're a very great transition team. They like to run the ball, and they have quick hitting offenses, and they run their offense with a lot of pace. And so for us, obviously, we're going to try and slow them down a little bit, try and control the tempo. And then for us offensively, we have to make sure that we execute and that we run our offense with a lot of pace to try and keep them on their toes and off balance a little bit. So it's going to be a lot of up and down action, so we're looking forward to it.
Next question down here in the front.
Jamie, Rich Elliott from The Day. You talked about playing UConn, going in fearless. Is that the way you have to play this team? Not worry about the history and what they're all about and just go in there and play?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, obviously they demand respect for sure, but you can't lose the game before you step foot on the court. And we know what we've done to get this far, and we just have to stick to that.
Howard Megdal from Excel Sports. Ruth and Jamie, it's been a long time since Breanna Stewart and Mariah Jefferson have lost a game at UConn, but they did lose that game last summer to Team Canada. And I'm just wondering whether you guys take any sort of lessons out of that, either psychological lessons or even just specifics from what you saw. Obviously, a little different with you guys, not playing in that game and Kia being able to score 33 points in it, but just in general, what that experience meant and what you sort of take out of that as far as how to beat a team with those two.
Yeah, I think it's definitely just a mental thing. Like, you can't, just like James said, you can't lose the game before you set foot on the court. You just got to know that they are humans and they're going to make mistakes, and every team is beatable if you play the right way. And so I think, yeah, you just kind of, that they're not invincible.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, it's 2 different environments, 2 different teams, and so I mean, I'm not looking at that game very much, and we gotta go in here and know what we do.
Take 2 more questions for the student athletes here, and then final over here.
For Jamie and Sydney, Washington's here as well, obviously. Can you talk about defending Kelsey Plum for just a second? Because I'm going to be working on that a little later, and just what it's like to try and keep her in check.
Yeah, I mean, she can score in multiple ways. Get to the hoop, shoot the 3, pull up. She's always looking to score, but I think for us, we always wanted to force her to her right hand and just make it very difficult for her to even catch the ball, and then just force her into something she doesn't want to do.
Another big thing that we focus on is making sure that it's all 5 of us against her. It's pretty tough to defend her one-on-one. They do set a lot of picks for her. And so we try and get the ball out of her hands as much as we can. And then they have a good enough team where they can all make plays. So, I mean, Washington's a great team, and Kelsey Plum's at the head of it. So, like Jamie said, we try and force her to do things that she doesn't necessarily want to do.
Also, she's really good at drawing fouls, so just keep our hands back and keep her away from our bodies.
And final question over here for the student athletes.
Rich Capola, Fox Television in Hartford. Ruth, obviously you're a tremendous defensive player. Morgan Tuck has been a real tough matchup for most teams and most post players. Her ability to be able to step out and make threes, how much do you have to respect that and be drawn out to her opening the lane a little bit?
Yeah, she definitely demands that type of respect. She's a great shooter and can stroke it from anywhere almost. So I think it definitely puts a challenge on the defense in that regard.
Thank you, ladies. The student athletes will be available in the locker room for the remaining time of their open locker room session. We'll take questions now for Coach Ruick. We'll start right down here.
Hi, Scott. A lot of questions about UConn, but I hope this one taps into your women's college basketball philosophy. There's been a big discussion heading into the Final Four about whether UConn's dominance is bad for the game. When other programs are striving to find the same success, yours is a fantastic example of that success. Do you look at UConn as the blueprint for that success, or do you look at them as an example of the need for more parity?
I think a combination of that. I think they have been the blueprint. I mean, who doesn't want to do what they're doing? I mean, we're all striving for that, and so I think parity could happen as we grow, and I think that's what this tournament this year is showing. I think there's a lot of programs and a lot of coaches that are striving to achieve what they've accomplished over this stretch, and I know I'm one of them. I mean, I look at them as an example. I always have. When I was Division III coach, I was looking at UConn as an example, and we do get TV out west, and so I've watched a lot of UConn. And there's not many teams. I'll be honest. If I were to watch a basketball game, I have told people I would rather watch UConn than anybody, men or women. The way that they transition, the way they share the basketball, the way they defend. I think they set a high bar in every way. They're excellent. And so how can excellence be bad? I've never understood that. And so I use the word inspire a lot. I think that's what we all try to do for our fan bases, for each other. And I think UConn they're inspirational, the way they conduct themselves. And so I think they're nothing but good for the game. I think it's up to the rest of us to rise to that level. And I think anytime you have a bar that's that high, that's a positive.
Question right here.
Yes, David Woods from the Indianapolis Star. Coach, could you recap briefly what it is you confronted when you arrived in Corvallis? I understand you only had, I don't understand how you could have only 2 scholarship players and had to have tryouts to fill out the team. I mean, what was that like? And did like a year or two later, did you think you were in over your head, or did you still think you could climb?
Well, you always feel like you're in over your head a bit, I think, in anything if you're trying to achieve the top. And what I inherited was basically a clean slate. That 9 of the 11 players had transferred out. There were 2 remaining, and then after I was hired, one of them left because the situation seemed so bleak, and that left me with 1, and then we've got 1 back who decided to come back. And so then there were 2, only one of whom had ever played in a Pac-10 game at the time. We had 3 incoming freshmen that the previous staff had signed. One of them ended up staying for all 4 years. 2 of them left after 1 or 2 years. And then we had a junior college transfer that had been signed to a financial agreement, and she became eligible the day before school started that fall. And so utter chaos that was the feeling. We had open tryout where we acquired 4 players that had to play. And then we added a soccer player and a volleyball player as we went. And so there were 11, and it was one of the most rewarding years of my life. Taking a group that had 0 chance and finding a way to make them competitive nearly every night. And so we were in all but 3 games, I believe, that year. And it was that team alone is a remarkable story. And so that set the foundation for this group. And, Jamie and Ruth got to watch that team compete. Samantha Signer and Devin Hunter got to be at local kids. They got to be at a lot of those games, and they were inspired by that group. And that's what really opened the door to us, because it was, yes, come share this vision, but look how this team is competing. And they saw hope in that team.
Question, Michelle?
Scott, how do you prepare a team for an experience, not a game, but an experience here that you haven't gone through yourself, at least obviously Division I?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think you just go to your philosophies and your core principles of, you're not going to be ready for a lot of things that happen to you, but if you stick to who you are and you stick to the foundation, this stuff has nothing to do with the game. Last night's event had nothing to do with the game. Practice has everything to do with the game. And so be ready for practice, be ready for the film session, and let the rest go. And enjoy it. I mean, absolutely. They've earned this. They've earned everything that they're receiving and experiencing. And so I'm not going to take away from any of that. Let's all enjoy this. Us, me too, our coaching staff as well. But when it's time to go to work, we're going to go to work like we have the entire season and the last 4 years together, and treat it like it's another game, because the reality is, it is. It's another game. There's no difference. This is another obvious great team we're preparing for, and so we've got to treat it like another game. And so that's what they're hearing from me, and that's what their maturity has allowed them to handle every situation. And certainly going into Dallas and playing Baylor last weekend was a pretty good lead-in to this. I mean, that was obviously an uncomfortable environment to be a part of and an experience that we hadn't had before, and I thought the team handled it very well.
Question here from Doug.
Hey, Coach, Doug Feinberg, the AP. Two-part question. First, since you've been in this Division III before in the Final Four, how sweet is it to have all three of these divisions playing for the title on the same court in the next 48 hours or whatever it is? Second part is, you've watched UConn, you said on TV, and I'm sure you've watched it on film a lot. What's the biggest thing you take away watching them shows how good they really are?
First off, the Division II and III championship games being here, I mean, how perfect. I was so excited. I mean, I was killing ourselves to get here to be a part of that, and I was really secretly hoping George Fox would be here as well. And, they had another phenomenal season and had a shot at that. And so I thought, how perfect would that be if we could find a way to be here with them? And so I think that's really special, first off. Every level should be celebrated because it's all relative. I don't care more now that I'm here than I did when I was Division III at the Final Four. It's all the same. As far as Connecticut, what I believe sets them apart is their efficiency. Great teams have no weakness, and so everybody's striving to be a great team. And so you just look at numbers, and they're at the top or near the top of almost every statistical category there is. There's just no weakness. They're so efficient. I think a lot of people talk about their offense, but I think their defense might be better than their offense, and that's saying something. And so, that's something that I, as a basketball coach for all these years, looking at them, that's what I've admired. I mean, our numbers defensively are similar. Well, there's a reason for that. I've been trying to get my team there, for a long time. And so I just see a team that, you've got to do your best to throw them off their game, because if you let them be comfortable, they execute so efficiently that, that's why they've won like they have.
Question in the back there.
Hey, Coach. Tim Lewis with Como TV in Seattle. University of Washington here as well. This is a banner year for the Pac-12, 2 teams in the Final Four. How big of a moment is this for the conference, and can you just talk about that a little bit, how big this is for the Pac-12?
So proud of our conference, and what we know, it's been an absolute grind all year long. I mean, going through the Pac-12 and trying to survive that thing, it's a war every night. It's coached so well, and what we've learned kind of as the tournament's gone and you hear the national narratives is that not many people get to see us. Not as many as maybe you'd hope, or, Pac-12 Networks is unbelievable, but we are obviously on West Coast time. And so maybe we haven't done enough at this level yet to garner the attention that I think our conference deserves, and hopefully this year is getting people's attention at a different level. Not that anybody would say, well, I don't care. I think everybody cares, but they haven't maybe gone out of their way to focus on it. It doesn't surprise me a bit that Washington's here, at all. at all. That they went to Maryland and won, went to Kentucky and won, didn't surprise me a bit. That team is a nightmare to prepare for. It takes everything you have to defend them. I mean, you listen to these guys, they could, it's not like we just showed up and beat Washington twice this year. We showed up and had to go to war, and if you let that team get comfortable, they will kill you. And so, and that was our 5th place team. And so that's what it says. So I'm just really proud of our conference, and I'm really happy from top to bottom that conference, all the coaches and all the effort, the fact that we're keeping a lot of West Coast recruits west now, where that was not the case several years ago or a few years ago even. It's pretty special. And so I think the conference as a whole, every single coach and program deserves that credit that I think our conference is getting now. And so I'm really, really proud of Washington and happy for them for being here, and certainly proud for our team and also all 5 teams that played in the tournament.
Question down here in the front.
Scott Rich Elliott from The Day. What is it about your team that has allowed you guys to be so good defensively this year? And also, what are the biggest challenges when you look at trying to slow UConn?
Well, I think, one of the things that's allowed us to be very successful this year is one of the things Connecticut does very well. And ironically, every team that we've played in the tournament so far, they've all been transition teams. St. Bonaventure, not quite as much, but still they will go. And they will shoot so quickly in transition if you allow them. But our defensive transition has been our foundation. And that's something that this team's committed to. We make teams play 5-on-5 typically, and that needs to continue, certainly. Connecticut is quick hitting, like Sid said earlier, and they execute so efficiently in transition, which is one of the things that I've always liked about them. And so we can't allow that. We can't allow that. So we've got to be true to ourselves. And so I think what allows us to be as good as we've been, certainly Ruth has a role in that, being so formidable at the basket. But the commitment that this team has to preparation is ridiculous. It's incredible. They're so fun to coach for that reason. I mean, they want to watch film. If we didn't watch film, they wouldn't know what to do. I mean, that's who they are. They've embraced the challenges of preparing defensively. They know everything the opponent wants to do before. They ask great questions. And they're just students of the game. And that's the culture that's been built over these 6 years. And we hit a different level this year. And you can go back to Sidney Weiss's injury. That's when our defense took a big step forward, because you lose your floor leader, you lose those points, and that 3-point shot, it's going to be hard to outscore people. And so everybody understood that, and everybody rose defensively. And we found a way to win through that stretch, which was really the key pivotal moment of this season for us. But that injury put us in an adverse situation where everybody had to rise, and our defense is what really grew during that stretch.
Next question back here.
Hey, Coach. Lakin Littman, USA Today Sports. A couple days ago on the teleconference, Mike Neighbors said that he thinks that UConn's success, he's used some of it in his formula to get to the Final Four. And I wondered, you kind of touched on this a little bit earlier, but if you believe that for your team as well, and if so, maybe specifically how their success, you've used their success into getting here.
Mm-hmm. I think just in a general sense, I don't think there's a specific thing necessarily. I just think, one of my favorite statistical web pages is the NCAA site that has the rankings of every statistical category for every team. And so you can look on that site, it's up for anyone, and it ranks you in every category. And so, we don't get a lot of steals, so we're like 300th in steals out of 344 teams, and yet we're first in defensive field goal percentage, and I think 4th maybe in points against or something like that. And I've used that forever. And I would look at Division III back in the day, and then I'd look at Division I, and I'm like, okay, Connecticut is first in all these. They're the best team in basketball, and I want to be the best team in Division III at the time. And so where are our weaknesses? Okay, we've got to get better in these categories. And so that's been the bar that they've set. And so I don't know if there's one specific thing other than overall excellence that I think we all strive for. And so, they've set the bar in that regard. And so you have to give them credit for that. And that's what we've been striving, and I as a coach have been striving to get my team to all these years.
Question right here.
Hi, Coach. Howard Mandel, Excel Sports. Just to go back to the Canadian win on the Pan Am Games last summer, obviously it's a different group. Obviously it's not a group that you're coaching, but I'm wondering when you see things like, Brianna Stewart was held without an assist, or, Mariah shoots 5 for 13 in that game. If there are things you can take from a basketball perspective, that team put up 81 against a team that had the defensive length of Brianna Stewart and Mariah Jefferson on the perimeter. If that's something you can take from it, and also just psychologically, if there's something to be taken from seeing a team beat a team with those two on the court.
Yeah, like maybe we should come out wearing our red uniforms. No, that was interesting to experience. That was such a grind of a tournament. I don't see them similar, to be honest. The circumstances are so different. This is a team that's been together forever. That team was together for 3 weeks. We're trying to throw something together, and then we suffered an injury to Tiffany Mitchell, and that really put us on the defensive and made them play out of position and long minutes. You play 5 games in 5 days and 8 in 9 days if you include the exhibitions. And so that was just a grind of an event, and that was the end of it. And we're playing in Canada with a packed house rooted all against us, and certainly that Canadian team played a phenomenal game that night and made big shots, and so it's ironic that that here I am with those guys now in this environment, but no, I don't think you can take a whole lot from that.
Final question here from Doug.
Scott, your players seem to have the right balance of respect of UConn and also being ready to play them. You mentioned before how their efficiency is flawless and other stuff. How do you as a coach prepare a team to play a team that hasn't lost in 2 years and has had so much success in the NCAA tournament, and balance that respect with not thinking that you can't beat them?
Yeah, I think that kind of Jamie said, when they chose Oregon State, it wasn't about the past. Well, we're playing this game. It's not about the past. I mean, we can't control that. We can give them all the credit in the world for it. But it doesn't matter. It's these 40 minutes, and that's all that matters. And so you look at what they do well, and you try to game plan against it, and you look at what you feel like might be a crack, and you try to game plan into it, and you look at yourself and you're like, okay, what do we need to avoid to be successful in this game? And that is identical to game 1 that we played this year and game 20 we played this year. And so I think it'd be a mistake to even think about those things, and I don't think they are. Playing Baylor last week was very similar. I mean, we could look at the history there and look at this team that is just physically, imposing, and you go into it and you say, okay, this is a team we got to beat tonight. And this is the environment, and we got to drown out the crowd, and we got to just play basketball, and our team did that, and they played, in my opinion, they played fearlessly that game once we got used to playing against that team, and just like every team. And so I don't think that we can even think of that stuff. I certainly don't. It's just like, who cares? I mean, that stuff doesn't matter, So you've got to let that stuff go, and you've got to be mature and disciplined enough mentally to not focus on anything that doesn't matter to this possession right now. And that's key to life. It's a key to everything. Too many people worry about things that don't matter, and that stuff in this game, in our world, we haven't played them. I mean, this is about this game, and so we've got to stay right there in the moment. And this team's done that all year, and they're very mature in that way. And I'd be surprised if they focused on anything but the next possession.
Thank you, Coach.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Oregon State is now going to their open practice. Nice job. Great job. Joni, too. I'll take care of that. Joni will walk you where you need to be. No problem. We have like an hour break, right? Or more than that? Yeah, let's leave.